Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
And now, the stories you may not see on TV. It's time for another episode of All Politics Are Local with your host, Barry D.
Yes, indeed. It's time to find out what's happening here at All Politics Are Local, a weekly show hosted by a guy with incredibly good looks and a striking amount of modesty, Barry D.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
We're proud to be Chester County's only AM and FM radio station located on the 17th floor of the WCHE Studio Corporate Building here at 105 West Gay Street in Westchester, a mere 7 blocks from Market Street Hardware. Now, don't be confused just because they aren't on Market Street. They're located at 623 East Gay Street. I don't know the story with that, but I'm sure someone can email me and explain it. Anyway, they are a true value hardware store with a 4.8 rating on the Google and are a well-stocked up hardware store. You can waste a couple hours of your time driving to a big box store, searching the aisles, then checking out and getting back home, or you could already have that project finished and headed on out to your kid's baseball game. You pick. Check them out over on Gay Street.
Oh, yeah.
That is another shameless plug for one of the neighboring businesses. So, what have I got today? I have my monologue, I have 5 minutes with Jack, and I talk about why prices are so high. We talk about it all the time and think that we understand that it's all about new import tariffs. Or is it? With me today is a guy that makes this radio station soar like the SpaceX Starship.
That's pretty hard to believe.
Would you believe more like a rubber band? You know, a rubber band powered balsa wood airplane, maybe?
Give me a break.
Let's move on to that time in the show where we step back to a commercial that isn't politically correct, like they are today. 25 years ago, Bud Light had commercials that made fun of people. That's right. That's right. And if people got their feelings hurt, well, it didn't make any difference. It was all in good fun. Today, someone ultimately gets whisked away to a safe room when something like that happens. So let's go back to a simpler time and laugh together at someone else's expense.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real men of genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Hair Gel Overgeller.
Mr. Hair Gel Overgeller.
Less ambitious men stop with 2-in-1 shampoo, but you put in countless hours, tireless dedication, and a 5-gallon drum of industrial adhesive.
Sticky goo.
Like a lacquered hedgehog or oily porcupine, what woman wouldn't want to run her fingers through your razor-sharp stalagmites of hair?
Or is it stalactites?
Wind, water, stray bullets, even repeated hammer blows. Nothing can muss your immovable mane.
I got a hair helmet.
So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, oh master of the moose. And while you're at it, crack open another bucket of goo.
Mr. Hair Gel Overgeller.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
You know what? I'm going to mix things up a little bit today. We're going to do this backwards. Let's head over to 5 minutes with Jack. Good morning, Jack. How are you?
Morning to you, Barry. I'm doing okay today.
Yes? And do you tell why you're not your normal glib self?
Well, I'm sure I know that you know and many of your listeners know that we lost one of our state police officers this past week who was gunned down for pulling over a car and being shot by the driver as he approached the car, leaving behind a wife and daughter in Chester County. And as you and I were talking earlier, you know this area quite well. You live in the area. You have a lot of dealings in the area.
Oh, yeah, that was up there in Honeybrook Township, actually, just over the border in West Cal. I do a lot of work up there towards Honeybrook.
Yeah, and you know, me being a former resident of Lancaster, I used to take that route quite often, all through that area. I traveled that road often.
Oh, right, you were up there, Ephrata, right? You were up that way, so you ran 322 straight up through Honeybrook and Honeybrook Borough.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yep, so a solemn moment for a young man, 40 years old. It's funny, at this age, I consider 40 young.
Not a lot of people as old as you.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's quite true.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Trooper O'Connor, well admired by the local cops. He actually worked with them quite a bit over there in Honeybrook Borough. They have nothing but good things to say about him. In fact, I haven't seen anything. Of course, you get into this, but look, everybody, he was a cop's cop. He did what he was supposed to do. He was good. He helped out people. He did what he had to do. He was stern when he had to be, apparently, but he did the job the way you're supposed to do the job. And a lot of these guys, Jack, they just want to go home to their wife and kids at the end of the day, and this guy didn't.
And that seems to be a simple request, and they never know when they're not going to come home.
That's exactly it. Then the guy turned the gun on himself. So we're never going to know why. Apparently, I have seen some articles. I don't know if you have. He was vehemently anti-cop.
Well, I guess if you're vehemently against law enforcement, I guess you shouldn't be driving about erratically to where other people report you to the police for driving erratically. You probably shouldn't draw attention to yourself if you don't want to engage law enforcement. Don't break the law.
Yeah, because it sounds like he didn't just arbitrarily come up on this guy Elks. There had been a call saying that this guy was driving erratically in the area. So it must have been very clear how erratic his driving was. And I don't know if it was from drugs or he was having a stroke. I have no idea. But he brought attention to himself. And I can't even imagine walking up to the side of a car and being shot in the head like that. I can't even imagine. I mean, now, obviously, Elks must have had some kind of mental problems, right? But I cannot imagine what drives people to do that. Like I said, apparently his social media was all about anti-cop. And look, Jack, this may come as a surprise to the listeners, but you and I have had our run-ins with the police, haven't we?
I don't think we're any different to anyone listening.
Right. That's exactly it. I have never considered shooting a police officer. You know what it is? They see something. They believe you broke the law, whether it's factual or not. They see something one way. I see it another. And the judge figures it out.
That's right.
Sometimes they've been right, and a lot of times I've been right, and I win. But the fact is, the courts are where you make these decisions. There were no winners in this whatsoever. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, and certainly for the survivors of this officer, it is tragic. I'm often dismayed. For the most of us, we believe we live in a civilized society, and for things to take place like this that are just senseless shocks us when we hear them, and so close to home.
Well, you know what's really funny about this, Jack? He's a 15-year veteran, right? So he joined the force way before the big anti-cop thing happened, right? So we're in 2026, so that he joined back in, say, 2010, 2011, whatever. That was way before it got huge. Like, that was just the beginning of the wave of anti-cop. But is it any wonder when you see this, and another thing just happened recently with a woman getting shot, I guess it was, over in Tredyffrin the other day. But is there any wonder why people don't want to become police officers? Nobody wants to do it now. Where it used to be 20 people would apply for one job at a township, now they're getting 3, maybe. They're not even meeting the standard. Is it any wonder why people are not becoming cops now? Why would you bother? Nobody respects you. Nobody cares about you. You could end up in jail for making a move in a split second that may or may not have been the right one. And if you make the wrong one, you could shoot them or they could shoot you if you hesitate. What kind of position? Who wants to do that, man?
No, there's a lot of other career paths to go, and we're certainly not making it easy on them as a society with all the background noise of anti-cop this and anti-ICE this. It's basically thumbing their noses at the rule of law.
And then what happens the first time they get mugged or somebody kicks down the door of their house or whatever? Who do they call?
That's right.
They don't call a psychologist.
Nope.
They don't call the social worker. They call the cops, the very people they hate. We're in a very confusing world, man, and I'd like one of my listeners to email me and explain it to me, because I don't get it. And in fact, if you email me and explain it to me, I'll read your email on the air, as long as you keep it clean, because I want to know. I want somebody to tell me, because I'm kind of devastated by this whole thing with this guy, because, he was just a young guy trying to do the right things, and his life is gone. And it's not only them, it's the people that he worked with, too, down in Emeryville Barracks. That's part of their family, too. So a whole lot of people are affected by this guy that just did something really stupid, and he's no hero, and I hope he burns in hell.
I'm sure that's the case, Barry. And I'll say this. I understand that you were actually traveling on that route by the barracks the day after, or the early morning of?
The day, I guess it was 2 days after. So I think it happened on a Monday. It was Wednesday morning. I was on my way into the station. I was actually coming down Strasburg Road right past the barracks. Yeah, and I saw the car out of the corner of my eye. It was dark, because it's dark when I'm going into the station for the morning show, and I saw the hood on the car looked misshapen. So I quick turned around to go back and see what it was, and it was covered with flowers. And I was desperately trying to take a picture of the car in the dark, and they were okay. But there was one TV guy there that was setting up the cameras for the report, and he goes, "Hey, man, you want me to turn on the light for you?" And I went, "Would you mind?" He did it, and I snapped this picture of it, and it's haunting because the sun hasn't risen. It's bluish gray light in the background, and the lit up car with the flowers on it. And it just makes a very powerful statement.
I encourage everybody to look at that picture. It is ominous, to say the least. Mm-hmm. Where can they see that picture, Barry?
So if they go to 953 WCHE Facebook page, and you'll see it in the feed.
If you haven't seen it, I encourage everyone to take a look at it. It's powerful. And now that you know the story behind it, I'm sure it'll affect everyone as it has affected most normal, sentient human beings.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jack, I wish we had something more upbeat today, but I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you. See you, Jack. And I also want to mention that for our listeners, if you go on to our Facebook page, just scroll down a couple. We actually have a post for a fundraiser for the family of Corporal Timothy O'Connor. His family's going to need money now. Dad's gone. And look, we're in the wealthiest county in the state, and it's still hard to give money sometimes. I mean, we're all just trying to scratch and get by. But if you can throw a few bucks towards them, $5, whatever, it would be, I'm sure it'd be well appreciated from the family. We're going to take a break. I'm going to come back with my monologue.
Barry D is back with All Politics Are Local.
There's been a lot of talk about data centers in the last few weeks. There's one proposed for East Vincent on the former Pennhurst Metal Facility property. There have been rumblings of potentially there could be one on part of the old Public Distillery in Limerick Township. And, of course, the one close to home is the approved, but back for an expansion under a conditional use to it went from about 1 million square feet to 1.6 million square feet.
Now it's time for a breakdown.
and thanks for that. It's going from about 1 million square feet to 1.6 million square feet. But there's a lot of improvements for this if they get the expansion. I've been accused of being for the one in East Whiteland on the grounds of the old Foot Mineral Superfund site on Sweetsford Road. And I've been accused of being against the same data center by different people in the same day, which is funny because I've kept my opinion out of this issue. I'm merely reporting the story. Why? Well, because that's how news is supposed to be reported, which is exactly what I'll do today. Too often we have these slanted news stories coming from all over the place, and they lean one way or the other. I'm not leaning any way, so anybody who thinks I'm pro or con against this issue. Maybe I am, but I'm not going to tell you which it is. So let me be clear. I am no specialist in this field whatsoever. I've been gathering all the information I can, and I've been able to glean information and relay it to you, the listener. And I'm going to break this down about data centers. Would I like to see them in the middle of the state where there's no population? Sure I would, for many reasons. The argument is they need huge amounts of water and electricity, plus a way to get the data in and out so that there's high-speed connections. And out that way, that makes it difficult for data centers to be placed in remote areas. But is that really true? Because let's start with energy consumption. In the mountains of Pennsylvania, there's the Marcellus Shale. That's producing huge amounts of gas. There are already data centers that can be self-powered. They're actually working on those projects right now. No need for utility lines to get the energy to the center. No worrying about overstressing the grid. But if transmission lines were brought to the power plant for the data center, the excess generation could be used to relieve demands in the times of high consumption instead of having brownouts. You know, we kind of need that now. Many people may not remember the collapse that happened back in 2004 when the Northeast went completely black because of a collapse that happened in Ohio. And once that happened, it overloaded everything and tumbled all the way across the Northeast. So if that power supply goes down, there's also the issue of backup generation because the system doesn't want to go offline. You know, that's money. You don't want to all of a sudden, oh, the data goes down. There's people depending upon that stuff. So that's usually done by diesel generators. You're not going to be able to do that through solar. There are many different versions which bring noise and pollution with them. Generator technology has gotten extremely good, and the latest iteration is called Tier 4. That's the latest and greatest in quiet and clean power diesel generation. Are those generators expensive? Oh, yeah. But it is substantially better than the prior models. And most times they're not going to run. They're going to be just sitting there and they'll do test cycles on them, and that's all they do. But if they do have to go on, you want to keep that to a low roar. Now, the high use of water seems to be an issue. But is it any longer? Like your car radiator, data centers have been designed to be closed-loop systems, meaning they have chillers to remove the heat from the cooling water. Yeah, that's like the Limerick Towers, right? They use cold water from the Schuylkill, and all that water gets chilled that goes through it, and then it goes back through the cooling system again. But they can be beside buildings, these chillers, or they can be top of the building, greatly limiting the amount of water usage. And by the way, in the radiator systems, it has to be distilled water. So it's other water cooling that coolant, whatever that coolant may be. Now, there's other designs. They use a refrigerant, such as what's in your car's air conditioning system. And the argument with a refrigerant is that it can have PFAS in it, known as a forever chemical. But there are options around the large water consumption, and they're working on that every day. Then there's the issue of the high-speed data lines that are needed to connect. Yes, if they want to do it that way. There's one data center that I know of that has its own satellite. That's right. It just takes the information, beams that data up to the satellite sends it back to Earth to another antenna, and it gets put into the information pipeline. No actual connection is needed. Plus, they aren't located in the middle of the population where people are exposed to the hum of the facility and whatever potential health hazards they may have or may not create because there really isn't enough data on that yet for that subject. We'll know in 30 years when people have, like, I don't know, 3 eyes or something, or don't. You just don't know what's going to happen. You know, it's just the way it is. And by the way, by that time, the technology is going to have changed again, and that data is going to be old, and it's moved on to something else anyway. But look, the issue isn't about building these facilities in the mountains in the middle of PA. It's about them being proposed in population centers. And why? Well, because the population or the locations are actually convenient to the power supplies, and more than likely, the places are either Superfund sites that will be remediated, are remediated Superfund sites, or brownfields. These are scars on our land that need to be repurposed. They need to be sealed so rainwater doesn't get to them. Something needs to go there, and what used to be there was industrial, and what created the contamination to begin with. So let me talk about the one I reported on in East Whiteland Township on the edge of West Whiteland Township. This data center was proposed to be located on the grounds of the former Foot Mineral Corporation. And for all of you newbies in the area, that would be people that arrived, 40 years ago or less, Foot Mineral was a very large employer in the area with a facility in East Whiteland on the grounds of a limestone quarry right off Sweetsford Road. In 1942, the Foot Mineral Company purchased a quarry site in cooperation with the Defense Plant Corporation. Well, that kind of tells you what they were going to do with it. The site was allegedly created for the production of strontium nitrate. That's a component for military flares. As it turned out, it seems it was actually created for the production of two chemical elements, lithium and zirconium, which had strategic military uses, but that was kind of hush-hush. This was one location in the area. The other was built in 1959 in West Whiteland. Now, the newbies would know it as Main Street at Exton. That's built on that location. There was a big campus there. I had a friend whose father worked for that company. Anyway, in the 40s, nuclear technology was in its infancy, and lithium was a component used to create nuclear reactions. So you can see why the government needed lithium. The old quarry site was used to process lithium ore, which actually didn't come from there. That was limestone. It came from Kings Mountain, North Carolina by rail. Well, yeah, that's actually now part of the rails to trail system that runs right by Sweetsford Road there, or by truck. Well, the waste from the processing ended up on the property in pits and in the quarry and contaminated the water table, and that's why it became a 79-acre Superfund site. Surprise, most people don't know that. The EPA states in a report, when the plant closed in 1991, a site had two quarries, a pit used to burn solvents, a lined wastewater basin, and more than 50 buildings and process areas. 3 unlined settling lagoons had already been leveled and backfilled. That had to be healthy. Public and private wells within 4 miles of the site had supplied drinking water to approximately 42,300 people. Several private wells closest to the site were found to be impacted by contamination and are no longer used for drinking water. A public water supply well, located about 1 mile down gradient of the site, has been taken out of service. In March of 2006, a revised proposed plan was issued and finalized in a record of decision, and the final remedy included excavation and off-site removal of radiation-contaminated soils. Hey, I wonder why they didn't have lights there at night and it still glowed. Stabilization of processed tailings located in one of the 2 on-site quarries. Consolidation of other site waste, debris, and contaminated soils into the quarry area, and capping of the quarry area by the at the surrounding grade. During construction of this remedy, it was discovered that a volume of contaminated soil exceeded the capacity of the quarries. It goes on to say that all aspects of the site cleanup are in place and have been achieved, and no unacceptable risks are present. It also means that all the land use restrictions or other controls required as part of the cleanup are in place and that the site is ready for use or reuse or future use. But it also states under activity and use limitations, at this site, activity and use limitations that the EPA calls institutional controls are in place. Institutional controls play an important role in the site remedies because they reduce exposure to contamination by limiting land or resource use. They guide human behavior. For example, zoning restrictions prevent land uses such as residential uses that are not consistent with the level of cleanup. Now, from what I understand, this was zoned for assisted living, a use that certainly is not one that it can be used for. It needs to be an industrial use where people are not residing. Whether it be a data center or a manufacturing facility, the site would be better capped with asphalt and buildings so that rainwater is limited from contact with the ground, therefore not getting into the streams or get permeating through the soil, causing more of a plume. Here's what I find ironic, humorous, and sad all at the same time. I watched the development get built across the street from this well-known super fight. Well, if you know your history, of the area or care to do any research, the property was next to what was part of the Church Farm School. When Church Farm was selling the land, Willard Rouse, whose uncle actually built Exton Mall in 1972, Willard Rouse was the developer, by the way, of Quincy Market in Boston, Inner Harbor in Baltimore, One Liberty Place in Philadelphia, the Great Valley Corporate Center, among others. He had a proposal to do a development of this large tract of land. It was going to be a mix similar to Chesterbrook, industrial buildings, a little shopping center, and homes. The plan actually included 3 or 4 townships. That's how much property there was. I think it was like 1,500 acres. The lion's share of it was in East and West Whiteland, who ultimately turned down the proposal. I heard that Rouse had $10 million in the plan or something like that before one shovel was even going to the ground. But anyway, They turned down the proposal, and that left the properties to become a hodgepodge of developers with no real master plan. So some of the properties did end up as open space parks for the county and West Whiteland. But since the plan was voted down, no one could ever know for sure. But that denial back then may have paved the way ultimately to end up where we are now, with a data center coming to this location. And the large development called Malvern Hunt across the street from the Superfund site is concerned about having a data center and the effects on the water. That's what one resident told me. They have no idea that the water's already contaminated there. All of a sudden, they're worried about the data center doing it. That water is fouled. Or the fact that these people purchased property with a pipeline running through the middle of their development. Or that their development is located right next to, and I mean right next to the location of the Transcontinental Gas Pipeline, compressor station number 200, with a gas blow-off on the property, plus a really tall radio communication antenna right next to it. They bought their property with all of that literally butting up against their development, and they're concerned about a data center? I get it, but I don't get it. Meanwhile, right next door to that development, Toll Brothers sealed a deal, we reported on it, to build a large over 55 community consisting of 317 homes on 100 acres. And the people will buy them, with a pipeline running right through that development, a quarter mile from a gas compressor station and a Superfund site across the street with contaminated water and a data center on top of it. Because that's what people do. Then they complain later because they were too busy to do the research beforehand. To me, it's astonishing that humans have advanced so far.
Barry D is back with All Politics Are Local.
I'm back, and today's guest is a man by the name of Matt Rowland. Matt works for a large building material manufacturer, and I wanted to get his perspective on what's going on out there in the real world and what's driving the costs on what we purchase. And Matt, I apologize. Lots of times I have lead-in music, and I just didn't have the time today to get you anything. Not that you're not important.
No, that's good. It's actually a good thing.
Yeah. Hey, you're scared.
I'm going to a Gary Newman concert on Wednesday in Wilmington. So
in cars.
Yeah. So
I have the 45. I bought it brand new.
Oh yeah.
1980.
It was all awesome. It still is awesome. But you couldn't have known my taste.
Yeah. No, I didn't even know Gary Newman was still around. He looked like a wax figure in the video.
Like, I said to my kids the other day, he looks like either a vampire bat or a troll right now. But yeah, he's only 68 years old.
Oh my God.
So he's not that much older than us.
One-hit wonder. What's he going to do for his next song when after Cars when he comes out?
Well, he had several, but they're all weirder and
really?
Deeper subculture.
And it was in Europe, probably, where he had
He
the
was
hits.
big over there for a while.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to make a comeback for 50 years, I think. But he's almost there, maybe.
I'm big in Japan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's another place you can go.
Yeah, that's right. and actually, I'm kind of a fourth star rated star in New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's
terrific.
That's another place where people do recognize me.
Lovely.
So.
Well, I have to say, your comments and, your...
For the monologue?
Monologue was right on. It brought me to an idea that I've been toying with for a long time about the monkey channel.
Right.
Because monkey behavior is like human behavior in that we're not proactive, we're reactive. And
right.
Monkeys are supremely reactive.
Sure. Up in the trees screaming the minute they see a lion.
And if you stare at them, they'll bite your face off possibly, or other things
like
terrible.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I'll bite your ear off.
Maybe that's where...
What'd you do with my tiger?
Yeah, exactly. So it's all good,
So, Matt, you don't have to tell me the company you work for, but tell me what you do.
For 35 years, I've covered the Mid-Atlantic in building supply for three major manufacturers. Mm-hmm. And it was always I was the poster boy for the Economic Times. Every time a big economy shifted, there was a change in ownership, and then they'd fire there'd be like a mass extinction. I always thought felt like I was in the mob because people go missing in the middle of the night.
Yeah, you're like, where'd Bob go? And everybody just kind of looks at you like, don't say anything.
What happened to Bob? And I'll call Ted. Then you call Ted. He's gone too.
Yeah. Or better yet, they go, I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and
they rewrote the history.
It's kind of like an ongoing thing. It happened the last time they had 40 guys on the phone call, and we all thought we were having a conference call. And the guy said, everyone on this call be aware, you're now fired. And we were like, wow.
Are you kidding me?
And some guys were 40 years in the company.
Wow.
And it was just like,
the
that
purge.
was it. Yeah. It was, and within an hour, we were...
See, that would be my opportunity to go, I always thought you were a fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Just because you could.
Well,
what
there
are
was
you
no
going to
job
do, fire me?
description.
I'm already fired.
Right. No one gives job descriptions anymore.
No, because then they build onto them, right?
Right.
If you go, that's not my job description, people get angry and they go,
Don't
well,
even
maybe I
say
should
that.
put it in there.
You'll be blacklisted immediately.
Yeah, right.
Questioned his
You will
job
do everything.
description. Yeah, it's true.
And you'll do it twice as fast
And that's
as
what
the
we
last
do
guy.
now. It's like an evolving. It's out of control.
Yep.
So the thing that's going on right now is prices continue to go up because of a million reasons. But really, it's about outsourcing. And outsourcing is a way of providing the same products, some to spec, some not to spec, that the company can just get them as cheap as possible from wherever they can get them without being crushed with tariffs and other penalties.
Right. So they jump from China to India to Thailand to Pakistan to whatever.
Exactly. It's like Apple does that, but they're really good at it. Apple can make stuff, and then by tomorrow at noon, it's somewhere else.
Yeah, well, that's easy when you have more money in your treasury than most small countries.
Yes.
I mean, Apple is sitting on so much cash.
Yeah, and we went through that. My last company I worked for, I went to Kansas for about a month on assignment to help. We opened a mega warehouse where the port issue in California was so bad that we decided to ship everything into Mexico. And then every big company pretty much did that, and they sent everything up on rails to Kansas. So if you go to Kansas, there's these incredible industrial parks. I mean, bigger than you can imagine.
So where do they go through customs when they come through?
They go through Mexico, and then it's a rail thing.
Because there's also I thought it was all like made up some kind of conspiracy thing that Mexico was going to have a customs clearance center, like in the middle of Missouri. And I said, that's a joke. I was saying to Princess, there's no way. I think Glenn Beck was talking about it or something. I'm like, he's out of his mind. And then we were on our way back from New Mexico with the rig, and we started seeing signs for the future home of. And it was literally, it's like the sovereign blah, blah, blah. So now all the stuff in those trucks drives through, I don't know how many states before it gets to where it's supposed to be, where things could just disappear along the way.
Yeah. Well, Glenn Beck, if you listen to him long enough, you will think he's, nuts. But, the point is these things change, and it's all about how much more profit we can send to the top. And, quality is an issue a lot of times with product, but you have less manufacturers who really want to spend the money. Like our whole company, the one I work for now, used to be we were from Cleveland, and that's been gone forever. And if you know the history of Reading was like the largest manufacturing hub in the world at one point.
Oh, I didn't know that. I knew that they did a lot of rail repair and they did manufacturing, but I didn't know they did that.
All the locks. I mean, Baldwin was one of our brands, Baldwin door locks.
Really?
And Baldwin was all originated and manufactured in Reading, it was the greatest, best quality home lock. It still is. It's just that it got overtaken by products that mimic it and mock it. They're the same look, but they're not the same quality. But the cost is half.
Right.
So, I mean, it always comes down to price. People, they all say they want quality, but really price is a driver.
So now what we're talking about is that the corporations are, it's funny as Americans, like there's Five Below and all that type of thing. So what happens is you buy something and it breaks and you go, it was only $5.
Yeah. That's
become the American mentality. And they'll complain. They'll go, I can't believe it broke already. Well, why do you think it broke? Do you think because it was only $5?
Right.
And looking at that should be like a $12 or $15 item.
Which is surprising that dollar stores are growing. I mean, I thought they'd be dying because people would be sick of buying junk.
No, it's like they're addicted to it.
It keeps going.
No, people are such a disposable society now, right?
Yeah.
So, and of course it's not $1 now, it's around $1.
Well, you saw when Sears broke up, they made a great thing in providing brands that had quality. And then as they dissipated, it's hard to find the quality. So quality.
Craftsman went off. Stanley got that or something.
Yeah, Stanley. I worked. That was one of our brands, Stanley. We represented brand Stanley Hardware for a long time, and then that got broken down because they had to pay 7% royalty. So the manufacturer who owned the brand name wasn't really Stanley. It's just sold off. It's like a logo. So if they don't want to pay the 7%, they disband it using the Stanley logo, but it was the same hardware, which is now available in all Lowe's and Home Depot and Ace.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same products, some to spec, some not, but they were Stanley at one point, a lot of it. So it's about money.
Well, so now we're talking about why we're talking about the cheapening of it, right? As
Yeah.
things get shipped out to, Indonesia and Mexico and wherever else. Why the increases in price? I mean, I hear people all the time, effing Trump, it's his tariffs. And I'm sure there's an impact in that. But I got to tell you, I've done some research into that too, because I was looking at buying a new aircraft out of Brazil. There's no import tax if I buy another aircraft out of Brazil. There's zero.
Yeah.
So they aren't blanket tariffs.
Right.
Even though it sounds like that, they're not.
Yeah, it's spotty.
It's spotty. It's all over the place.
And they said that when this whole tariff discussion came up, they said, well, let's insulate the building materials because it's part of construction and home real estate sales.
It's not a luxury.
It's not. And so at some point, I thought there'd be some kind of shield to keep building materials, wood, all the basic stuff from being tariffed. But you find out then, like I worked for another large company. It was called LMC. Lumbermen's Merchandise Corporation, the biggest lumber buyer in America. And they're buying, most of that stuff's coming from Canada anyway. So there's going to be, it's just there's going to be a tariff here and there, but it's a weird game. It's no real specific rules to every material. So it gets choppy because price increases come. They used to be, in 35 years, I've seen a few for 2 to 5% normally, usually around 3%. The last one we had last September was 22%.
So why?
Well, they said they were holding off tariff. It was a combination of things, changing supply chains, and some tariffs here and there. But they couldn't put their finger on it for a year. They just knew they were bleeding. And so when they did that, it was a rising, tide. All ships were everything all of a sudden got fixed. But the bottom line was, you go and find a box of concrete screws, and it's $20 more for a box.
Right.
So. Right,
absolutely. It's kind of funny we're talking about this because I have a friend that has since passed, but he was a machinist. And he had a nice sized machine shop. And he started talking in Trump's first term when Trump started putting a metal tariff. And what he was trying to do is protect the metal producers in this country. And that's really what it's about. The incentive is to get these people to start doing things in this country again. Because if they do it and they start doing robots and they start doing more automated, we can be very competitive with overseas.
Oh, yeah. With robotics and technology, labor is not the main issue now. So labor is becoming less the issue.
Less the issue. Where that used to be better than 50% of your cost was labor. Right.
But now the real problem is not labor. It's about repositioning back. And with politics, every 4 years, it's change. It could change. In 4 years from now, we could have a crackpot trying to give us communism maybe or something. We don't know where we're going. We just avoided a near-death scenario, almost seems like, with some of the people they were trying to put in place. And so why would a company go and, they're planning, when they're planning out in, not just this year or next year or 4 years, they're planning out for the next decade.
Well, that's what you're trying to do, right? But then things change so badly.
You can't go out and put a major investment into retooling and bringing manufacturing back unless you know for certain, certainly that you're doing it for the right reasons for the long haul.
Yeah, because you could put that investment in and the next year be squelched, which is interesting because one of the influences on that was Obamacare. Right. Let's take a quick break and pay some bills, speaking of that, and we'll come back and talk more about this.
Barry D is back with All Politics Are Local.
All right, I am back with Matt Rowland. We are talking about prices of commodities, but parts in general, tools and equipment and inventories and, consumables. And I was talking about my friend Tim that had this machine shop. So the tariffs were due to come in. But interestingly, all of the prices went up on his steel and things like that from American suppliers. They were raising the prices pre-tariff and gouging people. So the Trump administration had to open up an investigation into the gouging because they're like, wait, nothing has happened yet. And the whole concept is so that you sell more than overseas. And instead what the American companies were doing, well, they're going to we got a better product anyway. Well, yeah, but you could have a better product and then be, more people would buy off you instead of China, and you could be competitive. That was the whole concept. And they abused it through gluttony, through greed.
Yeah. Yeah, there used to be a thing called the antitrust laws.
Right.
I think everyone forgot about this. It's like 100 years ago when the Industrial Revolution came.
Right.
And then they had, we're going to get a good control on these people. But what people don't realize now is you're allowed to really have a conglomerate that has no competition, pretty much. I mean, in our industry, we really are the dominant player in all supply of fasteners and hardware.
Sure.
But our second competitor is like a small potatoes kind of thing. It doesn't nearly stack up to us. So what's funny is we're still looking at trends. And it's funny, I was just at a meeting out in Denver, and we had it was about the ACE has a national show twice a year. But one of the biggest things at the ACE show was impulse purchasing. And I've been looking at stores in Delmarva and all around the East Coast. We have there's stores selling little stuffy bears and little creatures and candy, and they're selling. It's like I walked in, I goes, is this a hardware store? Looks like $1. I mean, what is this stuff? And they're like, it's impulse sales. It's becoming more important. And I thought, well, when we were kids, if we wanted a candy, we'd get smacked. Now they're just handing them a stuffed bear for $30 or $20 or a little car, or they're shutting the kids up with just giving them things now.
Well, that comes down to it. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I can tell you how my parents shut me up. It was easy. Yeah. You can walk home if you want, or I'll whack you on the ass.
Yeah. There you go.
I will tell you that a very valuable lesson I learned from somebody who I was a good friend with, and he passed away recently because he was in his 90s. He had a PepsiCo bottling company, and he worked for Schmitz at one time as one of their CPAs. When he had the bottling company, their trucks would go out to pick up bottles, and then where they'd be doing a delivery, right? That's what it was. They'd be doing deliveries, right? So on the way back, he'd say, pick up the bottles from the bottling manufacturer instead of having them trucked in. And if they didn't need bottles, he'd go, hey, you're going to do a run with that truck, and you're going to pick up something else, and you're going to drop it here or something like that. And some of the people in business went, hey, we're a PepsiCo. We sell Pepsi products. And he went, no, we're in the business to make money. And if that's going to make us more money, that's what we do.
Yeah, I remember those bottles. They were like worn out. They had like banged up bottles. Those Schmitz bottles, returnables.
Yeah. Right.
Man.
Yeah, back when recycling.
Well, you had to really turn the refrigerator up to its highest. I mean, they had to be ice cold. That's how you enjoyed it. It wasn't about taste. It was the colder, the better.
It froze your taste buds and everything.
Stun you
good
when you first had it.
But it was a valuable lesson I learned from him, and that's the bottom line. What you're talking about with the point of purchase, the impulse buying, is because they're in the business to make money. And if that's going to make money, and that's human psychology, that's what they do now.
People aren't doing anything. It used to be, I was saying this to my kids and some other people recently, in the old days, or in the last 20 years, I've seen when construction goes up, remodeling goes down.
Right.
When remodeling goes down, new construction goes up. But this is the first time I've ever experienced both of them are flat. And it's a new dilemma because the stores are selling less goods because people aren't repairing things. The biggest thing they're doing is, the number one thing they're doing is putting picture hanging. It's picture hanging hardware's up. People
do you know why? Because that makes you feel good. Because you can't do anything else.
You don't know how to fix anything.
Right.
It just doesn't occur to them that you can fix things. Or like my grandfather used to bend nails straight and put them in a coffee can. He wouldn't buy nails.
Yeah.
My father's favorite
I used to do that
tool
on the farm.
was duct tape was his favorite tool.
Your dad was MacGyver?
Well, I'd like to think so, but no, a really poor version of that. But
like nothing he had blew up the way it was supposed to.
And they didn't even have colored duct tape back then. Everything was gray, so it made it look horrible.
So, talking about price increasing, going back to that, is you guys, do you manufacture, or do you actually have the plants, or do you just contract with people that are making the product?
We manufacture with some plants that we own, but we try to outsource as much as probably we can. That seems to be the trend.
Yeah,
because there's less investment involved, and then
it's also less liability.
Yeah, it's all like layering. It's like, I think there's a lot of layering going on. In fact, this week there was a great show on public broadcasting about this new company called Circle. It's going to take the coin, the Bitcoin. It's like a Bitcoin layer to take away the risk. Like, I think the risk management is the whole thing. It's about not spending money where you don't have to, so you don't have to get liability and all the other things that go with it. So as we're in control of our business, just people are going to pay. They just have to realize that the prices don't go down. They stay there where they're at. They'll go up and then they'll just stay there.
Well, that's a truism, okay? Because if it goes up, then you don't have to raise it later. That's another psychological issue to it. For example, in order not to make Tasty Cakes more money than they already are, the pies are getting smaller.
Yes.
Then they put it into a tin to make it appear more value, when in fact the tin is there because the tin is cheaper than them making the product.
Yes. Which is a tough subject, snack food. We were talking earlier about Doritos.
Right. There's a perfect example of prices going up.
Yeah, my family and me, my daughters and me, we had a talk a couple of years ago when, right after the pandemic, that, Doritos became a problem because prices, it's $7 a bag.
It's crazy.
And the size went down from 8 ounces to like 6.
There's size reduction. If you look at ice cream doesn't come as a half gallon anymore. It comes as like, I don't know, 50 ounces or something.
Yeah. So we took Doritos off the menu and then basically did a study on it, and we found out there is no other corn chip that is a Dorito. There's plenty of corn chips out there, but none of them have the formulation. And it's pretty good science.
Right.
So once you get off it, though, it's a good thing.
Right. Oh, well, that's it. I'm speaking to you right now in the middle of I'm at a 38-hour fast right now.
Oh,
so
lovely.
Yeah, I'll probably run to about 56 or 58 hours.
Sheesh.
So
pretty rub that on.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, it's not hard to believe there, pal.
Yeah.
But I do it a couple times a year.
It's good. And, good. Learning to live with less. That's what I was going to say. One thing my father gave me besides a spreadsheet and a bill when I graduated high school that I owed the family a lot of money. The only good thing I think I remember is he said, learn to live with less and you'll be happier, because he was a Depression era guy. And I think that young people do not understand not getting or not having or learning to live with less. You don't have to buy, it's a smart water, right? It's $3.
Right.
I would pay, I used to be a water fountain everywhere you went.
Right.
You feel like, now you're like, it's like, if you look at people, they won't go near them. They think, I'm going to get sick.
It's spitting the water out.
What? You're going to drink from that?
From the hose. Remember the garden hose?
Oh, yeah.
So, the world has changed, Yeah. But yeah, so Doritos are crazy money now, and the sizes, but as you said, the prices go up and they don't come down. Well, we have a couple issues there, right?
Yeah.
Because now the new tagline with all the politicos, and we got to wrap this up, we've only got about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that, I'm going to get you bigger pay raises. And everybody cheered, and they got bigger pay raises. Well, in the end, they lose because it never keeps up with inflation.
Right.
You always end up making less in the end. But people had all that money after COVID. They got more money, and they got the free money from the government and all that. They said, look at this. But they were buying all the manufactured goods that were in warehouses that hadn't come over yet. It was the old stuff.
Yeah.
When the new inventory came in, everybody went, what the hell just happened?
Right.
Oh, yeah, now you can't afford that stuff more.
Yeah, but if it's something you have to have it, like building materials.
Right.
You have to have it.
Right.
Something breaks, you must replace it.
Now, building materials did come down after COVID. Wood was coming out of Canada, and a 2x4 was $7.
Yeah.
That did come down. I don't. What is the price of a 2x4 now? I have no idea.
Well, I don't do lumber, but it's
down.
It's down. It'll come down a little bit, but then it's a renewable. But
right.
You think it would be, it's not the main problem. The real problem is real estate pricing.
Yeah.
It's tied in very tightly to, people just can't afford. I mean, prices are crazy.
And the other problem is fuel.
Yeah.
And listen, energy is everything, and that's one of the things this administration does understand. Is everything's tied to energy.
Yeah.
And if it's not, if your energy prices are lower, we become hyper competitive in the world.
Yeah.
As the energy prices get higher, we're less competitive because over in Europe, energy prices are twice what they are here.
Yeah.
So
it's true.
They're more expensive, and so a lot of your energy very fluctuating on things like that. So there's a number of different variables, and everybody wants to point at just tariffs, and tariffs is not
right.
all that.
Yeah, affordability. Well, let's say affordability is the big thing, right? Everybody, I want the prices to come down. I want them to come. Well, they're not just going to come down. You can't just wave a wand.
They can't. Now you've now paid people more money. It costs more. The
they just have to
electricity's
go up, and you know the problem is they're telling people a lot of things that I think there's a thin line between a real big lie and something like you got to be a tradesman. Do you ever go out and work in as a tradesman and you're out in the sun all day baking?
And then
sweating,
what is it in the wintertime?
And in the winter you're freezing your
you know how much more it hurts
off.
when you hit your finger in the wintertime?
Yeah, we need more plumbers. We got enough plumbers. Are you kidding me? There's roofers. There's millions. I mean, there's more people running to the trades, but guess what? That's not a fun job a lot of times.
It's not a fun job. You can make good money at it. It'll be less as more people come into it. But I will tell you, AI cannot replace it.
Yeah, well, that's true, but there's only so many we need. Like now you look at a magazine or any other advertiser, there's a million people trying to get your, landscaping or your painting.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Competitive brings the prices down.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's a winner for the consumer anyway.
We'll see what happens. I always say anything can happen, even something wonderful.
That's right. Well, we can hope for that.
We can hope. Hope, that's it. That's the final word, I guess.
Well, Matt, it's time for me to wrap up the show. That was the fastest 25 minutes of your life right there, wasn't it?
Terrific.
Oh, my God. Hey, thank you for coming on today and talking about why prices are the dynamic and what's going on with them.
It's a great show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Also, a big thank you to Eric Clambaro, my producer here at All Politics Are Local. He is currently training for a race in 2 weeks. It is 2 weeks, isn't it, Eric? 2 weeks, and I see he's on the cheesecake diet, so I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out.
You imbecile!
I forgot to mention the Stooges. I forgot.
What's that?
I was going to lead in. My first thing I was watching the Stooges the other day, and they got on the radio, and they go, va-va-va-voom, va-va-va-voom.
Oh, I got to get that one.
And they're all, like, joking because they couldn't believe they're on the air, and I was like, I was going to start off with doing that.
Well, listen, Mondays and Wednesdays, Eric and I are together on the morning show, and it sounds like Matt's going to be back anyway. To be sure to check out this coming week, just put it on your calendar, and we're going to talk about something interesting.
Hey, no wonder the water don't work. The pipe is plugged up with wires.
Hey, listen, local radio, like right here at WCHE, we have your back. If you think Spotify cares about you, they care about a monthly recurring charge on your credit card. That's what they care about. We're Chester County. Support your local businesses. Spring is here. Check out the Honeybrook Speedway and see what it's all about. It's great family fun at honeybrookspeedway.com. That's another free plug, by the way. Local businesses are your neighbors and your friends, and support those that sponsor WCHE. They are our community. And if you don't have community, well, you're on your own. And by the way, if you like my show, take the time to send a nice note out to WCHE at 953WCHE.com. And if you don't like the show, just remember,
You are one pathetic loser.
that wasn't the one, but okay. As always, a shout out to the diva of downtown Westchester, Donna Saul, the general manager here at WCHE. Without her, you wouldn't have me. And without me, you'd have your sanity. Be sure to like and follow WCHE's Facebook page where you can keep up on all that's happening around the town and the county. You can also catch up with me and my updates and my videos on my Facebook page, which is WCHE All Politics Are Local with Barry D, and my YouTube channel, All Politics Are Local with Barry D. Today's intro and outro music is from the Eagles with their number 1974 song, Already Gone, which only hit number 32 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100. How's that possible? But, by the way, my mom always said there's somebody better off than you and somebody worse off than you. In 2004, Wilson Phillips released their version as a single, and it went absolutely nowhere. Hey, final advice of the day, if your motto is, at first you don't succeed, try again, I don't recommend skydiving. I'm Barry D for All Politics Are Local. Thanks for listening.